Welcome to this week's edition of Ask an MS Expert. I'm John Strum, and I'm the host of the Real Talk MS podcast. Each week, Real Talk MS reaches thousands of people in more than 100 countries around the world with the news that people affected by MS need to know. My wife, Jean, lived with progressive MS for 23 years, so I've had a front row seat experiencing all the ways that MS can impact a family. Today, I'll be asking our expert the questions you want answered. Please feel free to post your comments and questions on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. MS Navigators will be online throughout today's live program, answering your questions and connecting you to resources. Research has shown that expressive therapies like dance and movement therapy, music therapy, and art therapy can help promote self-efficacy, emotional well-being, and motor control in people living with MS. Dr. Francois Bethoux joins us today to discuss the benefits of integrating dance and movement therapy, music therapy, and art therapy into your treatment plan to help manage your MS symptoms and enhance your well-being. Dr. Bethoux is the chairman of the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation at the Cleveland Clinic Neurological Institute and the medical director of the Cleveland Clinic Arts and Medicine Program. Dr. Bethoux holds relationships with commercial interests, including MedRhythms, Inc. Welcome, Dr. Bethoux, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, John, and thank you for the invitation to join your podcast. It's a real pleasure to be with you today.
The Cleveland Clinic has a long-standing commitment to incorporating the arts into healthcare as a path to healing. Tell me, what are the benefits of integrating arts and medicine?
First, I would like to recognize that the initiatives to integrate the arts into healthcare came from the top leadership of the Cleveland Clinic. That's very impressive and rare enough to be mentioned, that the CEO of the Cleveland Clinic is the one who actually created what at the time was the Arts and Medicine Institute, because he recognized the potential benefits to everybody involved in healthcare. Of course, at the front line are our patients, the people who live with chronic conditions or maybe have surgeries, but also the caregivers and the professional caregivers, the nurses, doctors, etc., and also, of course, their families who often, have a role as caregivers as well. And the idea is that the arts reach us in a way that no other medical or health promoting intervention reaches us, because it has such an emotional component to it and also such a personal aspect to it. So, we talk about personalized medicine a lot these days, and I think the arts really touch at the heart of this, where, everybody's interaction with art is very personal, but it also can reach to all of us. Right? There are some types of music that may make you run away, but I love, and vice versa. The same goes with visual arts. So I think it can benefit a lot of people. We'll approach it in a different way, but in the end, we can engage with it at a very deep level, which is emotional, and then that helps derive health benefits. That's kind of a very generic way to say it.
Today, we're discussing using the arts for therapeutic purposes, which is different from recreational arts like a local painting or dance class. Can you explain what makes therapeutic art different?
There are two ways to consider therapeutic arts. One is using the arts for a therapeutic purpose by a trained and licensed professional. So we have music therapists, we have art therapists, we have dance and movement therapists. They all undergo a prolonged training, and they are experts at using the arts to help derive therapeutic benefits, often benefits on mood, on quality of life, but also benefits on movement, for example, on recovering speech in somebody who has difficulty speaking because of a stroke or other condition, or because of MS. And so this is the therapeutic arts as provided by an expert, and these experts will use the arts in a therapeutic relationship. So they're trained healthcare providers using the arts as a means to deliver the therapeutic intervention. And then there's integrating the arts into the fabric of healthcare, which is another level that's been recognized actually recently by the NIH. The NIH has a great initiative about music and music in medicine. And they say we could also use music as medicine, right? We could use the arts as a medicine that we can add to our armamentarium of options that we have. And we can have people engage in it by, going into a creative mode, because creating is very engaging, but also being in a receptive mode, listening to music or visualizing a work of art and reacting to it, interacting with it.
You and your colleagues at the Cleveland Clinic developed a therapeutic arts program called Health, Resilience, and Well-Being Through the Arts. It exposed patients with a variety of chronic illnesses to different types of artistic activities to promote general health and wellness. What did you learn through this program?
So the name of this program is a mouthful, isn't it? The acronym is Here We Arts, which is much easier to handle. And it is a program that was designed primarily by our music and art therapist managers at the Cleveland Clinic in the arts and medicine program. And it consists of a series of sessions, and they were conceived of as group sessions where people would come to a location, generally one of our Cleveland Clinic locations in the region, as we call it, so closer to where people live. And it would be open to anyone who wanted to join from the community. And then, they would share a light meal and then engage with a trained provider in a topic related to the arts. It could be the use of music, the use of visual arts, the use of drumming, for example, for movement, and so on. So there would be a presentation followed by an experience, by creating something or starting something. And then people would leave the session with homework that they had to engage in, or they were promising to engage in it until the next session, which was the week after. And then at the beginning of the next session, they would report if they had actually engaged in the activity, if they enjoyed it, and then it would move on. The idea was to provide almost like a tasting menu of how the arts could be integrated into health promotion for the person's own benefit, with the hope that at least one of these would be very appealing to the person and they would continue to do it after the program was over. It's only an 8-week program, and that they would then continue to interact with it. Sometimes it would be something that had given up before because of their health condition and reacquainted with, or sometimes something very new that they thought, well, I don't have the talent for it, and they discovered that you don't have to be super talented to derive benefit and enjoyment from interacting with a form of art.
Is this program still active? And if it is, how can people participate?
So the program is still active. We started it as a research study because we really wanted to understand if we hit it right? If we got the right ingredients and if people were really reporting benefit from it. And after we saw that there was actually benefit that was reported, then we rolled it out to different populations. And with the COVID pandemic, we had to be creative, right? So we had to go to an online platform, and we engaged healthcare providers because, as you know, nurses and other healthcare providers needed a lot of support during the pandemic. We also tried to engage people with a variety of chronic conditions, and we're now working to engage people who are elderly and also have chronic conditions and could benefit from it. So it is available through the Cleveland Clinic. What I would encourage people who are interested is to contact the Arts and Medicine program or contact me at the Cleveland Clinic to know what's available. It goes by sessions. As I said, it's 8 sessions, and so it's not always active, but we're trying to maintain funding to keep it active in some way, shape, or form every year.
Exercise and physical activity are important for general health, and they're recommended for people living with MS at every ability level. Dance is a form of physical exercise that adds components of movement, creativity, structured movement, and rhythm. Emma is asking if dance and movement therapy provide different benefits than traditional exercise like walking or lifting weights.
That's a great question. And I'm so grateful that there is a growing literature to support what we call physical activity and exercise. So physical activity is anything physical that we do on a day-to-day basis, that we hope that it maybe makes our heart beat a little faster and makes us, breathe a little faster also, so that it has an aerobic component. Exercise is a form of physical activity that's very structured. Right? We may go to the gym and we may lift weights. We may go on a stationary bike. We may also walk for exercise, of course. Dance and movement therapy, or the use of dance, as a form of exercise, is different because there's an emphasis on the movement, on how to communicate through movement, how to communicate emotions, particularly through movement. And so it's a way to express yourself as you're doing a physical activity. So the emphasis may not be as much on the quantity of exercise, but how strenuous it could get and how out of breath you could get from it necessarily. Although, as we all know, from dancing, we can get quite out of breath. But also again, conveying emotions, sharing them with a group as well, which is very powerful. And so, again, it could be done with a therapist, a dance and movement therapist, alone or in a group format. What we did is conduct a research study with a local dance company. So we had trained dance professionals interact with a small group of people with MS, and they were getting prompts and they were guided into movement exercises, if you wish, and there was a progression through each session, and there was much enjoyment from the participants there. So the difference is really that it is a form of art, and so there's expression, there's emotion, there's interaction, more than in a traditional form of exercise.
You and your colleagues were involved in a dance and movement pilot study called Moving MS. The study focused on social emotional well-being, body awareness, and gross and fine motor function in people who are living with MS. What did the participants do in this study, and do you see the outcomes informing future work in this area?
So this is the study I was talking about, and the program that was developed by the company was called Moving MS, and so again there were group sessions with about 10 people with MS, and they were assigned each a dancer to work with them, and for about an hour they would again interact, and there was a facilitator for each session that would deliver prompts and would also, entice people to participate, energize them. And you could see the progression of exercises. I witnessed some of these sessions, and that was incredibly energizing, incredibly positive. And so, the group got comfortable together because, everybody's a little shy, moving in front of others. But once everybody realized they could do whatever they, felt like doing, following the prompt within their abilities, it's unfortunate that many people with MS, feel that it's difficult to go and exercise or do other activities in the community because, while they may be limited in the way they can participate in it. Here, really, there was emphasis on finding the ability in everyone, and they could adapt, the movement to what they could do. They could do it seated on a chair or standing up, for example. And as they got more tired, they may, revert from standing to sitting, etc. And really, the participants reported a lot of enjoyment. They reported that it had a good effect on their emotional health, particularly. and that it got them moving, right? And so that they were now enticed to continue on their own and maybe try to engage in dance or other form of exercise. And unfortunately, as can happen, the company we worked with just closed its doors, on the eve of its 25th anniversary. That was very sad. But the idea lives on, and what we've learned from it, we certainly are looking for other companies to partner with to continue offering this program and growing it based on what we learn along the way.
Studies have reported the positive effects of music therapy in people with chronic neurological conditions like MS. In fact, advances in neuroscience have led to an approach called neurologic music therapy. Can you tell us about neurologic music therapy and how it works?
Thank you for this question. It's an area that I'm not an expert on, actually, but I've had many interactions with experts in neuromusic therapy. So this is a subspecialty, if you wish, of music therapy, which is actually, sanctioned by specific training, where music therapists will use techniques that have been proven to be effective, and sometimes, proven to be effective even at the brain function level. Doing these colorful images of how the brain activates when you send the music signal or other. So these techniques have been validated, and then they can be used by a music therapist, where they would use their prior knowledge as well to specifically address people with neurologic conditions. To give you an example, rhythmic auditory stimulation is using rhythmic music to promote better movement, particularly better gait, better walking, right? And it's been shown to work for Parkinson's disease. There's some evidence that it may help also with MS and with people who've had a stroke. So again, while people listen to rhythmic music, you will see that their ability to walk may improve. And then if they keep doing it over and over, in some cases, you may see even a lasting benefit that would be shown even if the person is not listening to the rhythmic music at the time they walk. So that's an example. Another example is modified melodic intonation therapy, where a music therapist will use singing as a way for people who have difficulty with speech to be able to circumvent the speech difficulty by singing sentences or singing words. And there are several others of these techniques that are being used by these trained neurotherapists.
We heard from Calvin. Calvin says he's heard that music therapy can positively impact mood, fatigue, speech, and cognitive function. Can you discuss some of these findings?
So in MS and in other conditions, there has been a report of improvements on all of these domains. I think we're still learning how to maximize these benefits, and also how to do it the right way with the right person, right? We're all different, and our abilities, our tastes are different. So we're trying to understand if different types of music could have a different impact. I think that's the level of granularity that we haven't reached. But overall, there have been many reports saying that people, while they were engaging in music therapy, were reporting better emotional status, so better emotions, better mood. They were feeling that they were thinking more easily, and that they had more energy. I think we have already the preliminary evidence to support this in MS, and we're digging more and more. Now, the studies often will study a group of people, and at the individual level, we have many reports of people who derive benefit and not only during studies, but also they continue doing it. I had the example of somebody who participated in some of my studies and after the fact kept using music during his exercise sessions because he said it kept his mind clearer, kept him more engaged with the exercise, and he derived more benefit and was in a better mood. So that's just one example among many.
I want to make sure we have a moment to talk about art therapy as well. Based on study outcomes, what are the benefits of art therapy for people who are living with MS?
There have been fewer studies on art therapy, and many of these studies were what we call case reports. So they were a report of one person or a few people, and then describing their benefits. In general, again, keeping in mind that art therapy is really a trained therapist using the arts as a way to engage with somebody and generate positive emotions. As a result, we've seen improved mood, improved emotions, also sometimes improved movement, ability to move. And so, if the art used is actually a form of art that requires movement, then through the engagement to perform this activity, then people can do movement that they maybe thought they couldn't do that well. And so by repeating it over and over with this positive engagement through the arts, then they had a better ability to move. We always have to be humble, when we discuss the benefits of any of our therapeutics, and that include therapeutic arts. It, it doesn't work for everyone, doesn't work to the same degree for everyone. So it's a trial and error process until somebody finds really what jives with them and what engages them and then what gives them the best benefits.
We heard from Josh, and Josh tells us he's a terrible artist. Josh, I can relate. But Josh is looking to try something new to help cope with his depression and anxiety. He's wondering whether you have to be good at art to participate in art therapy.
This is a great question and one that I'm very passionate about. Art therapy is not going to art school. That means you can't flunk art therapy. That's not the point. The point is to take anybody where they are with their own abilities and limitations. And I could talk to you for an hour about my great limitations with the arts. For example, you wouldn't want me to sing because that would drive away many people who should be listening to that piece. But take people where they are, but also listen to them, understand what really engages them, and then get them maybe learn a few basic techniques, and then have them create a piece of art or create their own, and then express themselves, and then talk about it, discuss around it. And that's what makes it special, what that makes it unique, and that's what makes it therapeutic as well. And in the end, people are often amazed at what they've accomplished because they thought they really didn't do well with arts, that they had no talent. And then they discover actually that they can express themselves through the arts.
Bella tells us she wants to learn how to incorporate therapeutic arts into her MS treatment plan. She's wondering how to go about finding a program or finding things that she can even do at home. What suggestions do you have for Bella?
There are actually more and more resources for that. There are some videos online that one can find that explain how to engage with the arts. Some of them are actually made by art therapists and music therapists, so they are by trained healthcare professionals. Others are not, but that doesn't mean they can't be helpful. One way to find actually therapeutic arts professionals in one's area is to contact a local hospital, because generally the therapists tend to work in hospital systems. Few of them work in an independent practice. There's also on the website for the organizations, the Music Therapy Association and the Art Therapy Association in the US. they have a website and they give a listing of their members in different areas. So that's a great way to be able to connect with art, music, and dance and movement therapists in a specific area. That would be really the kind of resources that I would use. Also, word of mouth. Also, maybe ask the MS Society. The National MS Society is a wonderful way to find resources in one's area. And I know that in my area, I learned of some arts-related programs that actually through the MS Society newsletter.
Well, you shared some very helpful and important insights about how therapeutic arts can deliver real benefits to people with MS. What would you say are the top 3 takeaways that you'd like our viewers to remember and to use?
I'd say my main takeaways would be that first, that engaging with the arts allows personalized health promotion at many levels. In medicine, we've moved from, haven't moved. We've broadened our scope from, treating people who are sick to promoting health and keeping healthy. So engaging with the arts will allow that in a personalized way at many, many levels. Second, as we've discussed before, that deriving benefit from therapeutic arts does not require prior experience or prior training. That's very important. So anybody can benefit and anybody can enter at their own level. Finally, I would encourage everyone to seek out programs in your community, in local healthcare institutions. There are always more programs than we think. And they are not always widely advertised. And so it's sometimes word of mouth. But participating in these programs is very likely to promote benefits that will be lasting as long as we keep engaging with the activity.
Well, I want to thank everyone for some great questions today, and thank you, Dr. Bethoux, for joining us today.
Thank you. That was my pleasure.
Before we close, I want to remind you that the National MS Society's MS Navigator team is your best partner when it comes to connecting you to the very best information and resources on living with MS. You can reach an MS Navigator by phone, email, or through the Society's website by chat. For information and resources on MS, please be sure to visit the Society's website. You'll find research updates and news, information on connection programs like self-help groups and MS Friends. You'll hear about ways to get involved, and you'll find out about upcoming events that are taking place near you. Remember, you can connect with the National MS Society and others affected by MS on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And I hope you'll join me every week on the Real Talk MS podcast, where I continue the conversation that we start here. You'll find Real Talk MS at realtalkms.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. I'd like to thank Dr. Bethoux for joining us today. Please remember that a recording of this webcast will be available at the Society's website at nationalmssociety.org/MSexpert, as well as on Facebook and YouTube. I hope you'll join us at this same time for next week's edition of Ask an MS Expert. You can always find our upcoming program topics on the National MS Society's website. And now I have a favor to ask each of you. Getting your feedback on today's webcast is important. So if you're watching on Facebook Live, you'll see a link to a survey pinned to the comments section. On YouTube, you'll find that link in the program description. And on Twitch, you can find that link in the chat. Completing the survey makes a real difference. The information you provide helps us continuously improve, and it helps shape future webcasts. The survey just takes 1 minute, so I hope you'll take a minute to fill it out. On behalf of Dr. Francois Bethoux and the National MS Society, I want to thank you once again for joining us. Please stay safe and make healthy choices.